Hey there. I wanted to make a quick intro to animating panels in the style of Homestuck like Andrew Hussie did back in 2009. It's really rapid fire and fun and quick and experimental to do once you get the hang of it. And I see a lot of people really afraid to get started and start toying with it because admittedly animation seems a big step up from just digital art. And I get why it's intimidating, but I want to show you that the way Hussie did it, it's really approachable and really fun to play with and jam with. So right now I have this example file of Jane in her room. Immediately what I want to show you in this file is that I have everything on its own layer. Every little thing on a desk, every furniture piece, every poster, every little collectible is on its own layer. And a way to easily see that and find your layers in this layer list is to right click one of the thumbnails and click clip thumbnails to layer bounds. And now I can see, oh, this is the poster. Oh, I can shift it to be with the condense symbol. Like different little layers so you can really easily pick one and start dragging it around. I recommend turning off auto select and being a little more decisive so you can select something maybe by holding command or control and dragging something from anywhere so it doesn't cover it if you're working with small layers so you can drag them from farther away. I do recommend that. So having the layers in order is really important. You can see Jane right now is both in front of the bed and behind this little shelving unit. So what that means is that the shelving unit is a layer in front of her, above her, and that the bed is a layer below her in the layer list. Generally, think about the camera. This is closest to the camera and this is farthest from the camera. So things in the back, like the white background and the base of the room itself, are the lowest layers, they're farthest away. And the things closest are things like the Game Girl magazine. So that's the topmost layer. I'll need to stay cognizant of this as I frame new panels while I move Jane around and adjust things to logically make physical sense. It's a little hard to get the hang of, but once you get the gist of things in the back are lower down the list, it'll start being second nature. It'll always be a bit fiddly, but just keep it in mind, it's not that much of a problem. Now that we have our file and all the assets we want to use in it, we can pick the slice tool. It's probably under the crop menu for you. So you can hold the crop symbol and press slice tool, and you can set it for a fixed size of 650 by 450. Instead of working with a shrunken canvas, I really recommend using the slice tool. We'll get more about the actual technicality of how it works for exporting the panel later on, but for now, frame your shot however you want it, and you can just drag the slice around. It's a consistent size, and it's easier for me personally to have the entire access to my entire canvas. As I work, it lets me change things quicker, and it's less destructive. Now let's set up some new layers for this panel. So I want some UI. So I'll be getting this frame from Homestuck. I'll use the smart guides of the slice to align it perfectly. So I can see these little pink guides mean that they're perfectly on my slice. So the UI is consistent with Homestuck. And with some Photoshop magic, I isolate the layer and I know that it's perfectly where it should be if I want to be comic accurate. I already pre-made this file, so I'm just gonna copy this card over here. And it's good that while you're working, you're visualizing your ideas. So I want this card to slide into this Siladex, or whatever it was called in Homestuck, I don't remember, doesn't matter. But it's good to already have a quick idea of like, oh, this movement should look fine. So you can move it up, down, make sure everything works as you'd want it to. Next, I wanna make a copy of the little baton thing. I move it up to the top of the layer list under the book still because I'll want it covered later. And now an important thing is that for comic accuracy, you want to be thinking like Hussie in 2009, and that means you're running a web page that needs very small files in order to load for people. So I'm going to make sure I'm using interpolation by cubic sharper when I'm downscaling anything, where I'm shrinking it. And now when I hit enter, it's nice and crunchy. And even more, I'm going to go to filter. This is filter up here. I think you can see. Go down to sharpen and press sharpen more so everything nice and burnt so I don't waste too many colors in the GIF space. This is just a good habit to have. It's comic accurate. So now we have these two layers ready to work with. You might ask yourself why I duplicated the layer, and this is because Photoshop works in rasters. I'm not actually changing the original image. This is a new set of pixels. This is a new grid of colors. There's some red and some black and a little bit of white. and it's an entirely new data set. It's not cognizant of what the original sprite looked like. It interpolated it using that the cubic sharper algorithm, and it's a new thing. It's separate, and I can't tween like I might in traditional animation software between this state and this state with standard Photoshop layers. So I make copies whenever I need something rotated or bigger or smaller. Those are new layers. Now that I have all my layers set up, I want to start making the actual animation. So I go to Window up here and hit Timeline. And this is probably what you're going to see, this little Create Video Timeline. I'm going to want to press Create Frame Animation instead. If you by accident see a timeline, you can still press here and go to Convert Frames, Convert to Frame Animation. And you'll see something like this either way you got here. So this is our first frame. I actually don't want to edit this frame. I want to keep frame 1 with everything visible for now. You'll get why later. So I'm gonna duplicate this frame, and now I'm gonna start making stuff. So imagine I'll have a frame with this missing and Jane being closer over here once she's gotten close enough to the bed to pick up the spoon. Naturally, there's also a frame like that where the card is just ready to draw, but the baton itself is still on the bed, so I'll make that panel as well. I'll go back and copy this, make sure to remove this card, and keep that as a frame. I'm starting to build up the process. Jane starts here, goes here, picks up the item, and finally moves everything to the back. There's an important setting to be cognizant of when animating extra frames, which is propagate frame 1. Now, this is important. Say I want to add another frame, that's the first one, where this card is over on the left. Now, usually, propagate frame 1 is a very useful tool. For example, I want to make a change to the whole GIF. I want to remove these posters. I can go to the frame I'm on, say 5, and hide the layer, and then go to 4 and hide the layer, or maybe even select all of them, and then hide the layer with multiple frames selected using Shift. But instead of that, I think the most intuitive way to do that type of change is to go to the first frame, make sure propagate frame 1 is on for the layer I'm on, because it is per layer, and then hide this, and the change has propagated from frame 1 to the rest of the animation. It's a very useful tool when you're cognizant of it, but can surprise you. Say for this usage, say I realize I don't want the animation to start this way, I want it with the card drawn here. So I'm going to duplicate the frame, go to the first one, but say I forgot that propagate frame 1 is on. I moved this here, but that change, moving it 100 pixels to the left, also propagated here, 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 and here. It's moved it relationally to how much I moved in frame 1. Again, useful if you want the bed to be in a different spot and you need that to be consistent, but you don't want that to happen when you're not expecting it to happen. So just for this, when I really want to apply a change just for frame 1, but not to the whole canvas, not to the whole layout, I turn off propagate frame 1 and then slide that for it. And now everything is still where it's supposed to be. Now we have our keyframes, not really keyframes, this is traditional animation, but we have our keyframes set up, the most important moments. So for the start of the frame, I'm going to use 1 second. It's a Homestuck tradition, it's the classic length. It gives you enough time to register the scene and get ready for some motion happening. Same with the last frame, I'm going to use 3 seconds, the usual amount Homestuck uses. I think it's a really good sweet spot. It's not too fast, but also not so slow that you're sitting there and just impatiently waiting for the GIF to loop if you missed what action was happening. So 3 seconds is the traditional standard use last frame length. Now this is the interesting part. This is the middle panels, and you're gonna have to use the value judgment on your animations on how long each of these should be. For example, this one, the drawing of the card, that's not a big difference from the first one, and it's not a big deal. This isn't like an action being taken. This doesn't really, change the fate of the plot. So I can linger on it for like half a second to let the player register it, the viewer register it as a hold frame. Next up, when I teleport, I'm only going to spend very little time between this and this, so I can just be on this for like, let's say 0.1 second, and then a longer hold, because this is the crux of the GIF. We picked up the spoon. So on this, I'm going to hold for an entire second before putting it back in my inventory. Now it's time for the in-between frames. So Let's say I want a frame between these. Now I can make that manually. I can duplicate the frame, add some distance, but a good method is the tweening option in Photoshop. I can select these two. I'm holding Command or Control on Windows to select both of these. I press the tween button, and I want to make sure the position, or whatever else I'm doing, maybe something is fading in, but I want to make sure the position is ticked, and I'm adding one frame in this instance. If I added 5, it would add steps in between to accommodate that kind of travel, but I'm just going to add one frame because I want this to be very quick, where this is in the way, and then it lands here. And now is the really important animation principle of tick back. So I duplicated the frame where the car lands on, and just before it settles into position, I'm gonna overshoot it a little bit in the same momentum it was heading. It was going this way, it overshoots, and then snaps back, ticks back into position. Tickback is a term coined by Reddit stock author Bin, and it's really useful. It's used all the time in Homestuck, and it's a great way to focus the viewer on like, hey, this is where the movement ended. You should be looking here now that motion has ended. I'm gonna select both of these, press other, and lengthen it as 0.05 seconds. This is the length of movement quick motion is in Homestuck. You can think of it as Homestuck being in 20 FPS. This is just for one frame. This is only for an instant on the screen before settling into some longer interval. Next, we want to teleport Jane. So I'm going to use just tickback for that. I don't even need to tween anything. I copy this frame. I select Jane and move her just a little bit to the left, even a teensy bit down. This is the general arc of the motion, so it makes sense to wind up in this direction. And then I copy the final frame. And again, just before settling in, I move her a little to the left and a teensy bit up. Just that tiny bit of motion. Once again, I select these in between frames and lengthen them as 0.05. And now I have some drawing and a quick teleport. This will linger for just a teens bit before Jane does what we all came here for, pick up the item. Now once again, we can use just teleportation and tick back to sell a lot of motion. I can copy this frame, add some wind up in the direction where it's going to go opposite to that direction, like, oh, it's going to go top left, I'm going to move it down and right. Maybe even add a fun frame of it kind of going in that direction before we reach this state. And now you can really jam out with your frames here. Like naturally, I want to add a tick back frame of the card landing in here. I'm going to select both of the layers and move it like 10 pixels diagonally. That's like a nice good distance, really sell the punchiness. And then it settles in. I can even add a little reverse tick back as it like wobbles back into position. You can imagine this is like a spring being flung that way and settling back in. So you can really freestyle a lot while you're making the animations and adding the tweening, deciding how punchy different effects are. And again, I haven't even previewed the animation once. This is all kind of going on gut instinct, just kind of freeballing it because I have the general idea of long frames, hold frames, shorter frames, just having a nice idea of how long things should be on the screen for. So now the animation is settled. Once again, I want to add a tick back frame, winding up the motion. I'm gonna select both of them, tween one frame in between here, and then it lands here. Actually, I might as well even add another frame of the card or the whole book being moved a little to the left before settling in, showing the impact of the card received back into it. Just again, you can always add that little extra spice to a GIF. You can really freeball while animating something super simple. This is picking up an item. This is what all of Act 1 is. I now have 16 different frames really, really quickly with just jamming out, really adding a lot of sauce. So now I'm finally ready to export it. I can go to File up here and go to Export Save for Web. And if you want to be nice and color accurate to how Hussie exported the panels, which I do, I'm gonna make sure that using the slice select, this slice is the one I'm looking at. I'm gonna click the other, make sure, yeah, this is the one in focus. And to make nice Hussie accurate rendering, I'm gonna pick 128 colors with pattern dithering. This is the nice ordered grids of pixels you can see while trying to optimize for colors. This is these little dots in the beard and all these little nice gradient transitions in the blue posters. This is all saving space, it's saving file sizes. The whole file is 75 kilobytes. Very, very lightweight, very nice. Now, you can start getting a nicer preview of what you animated here. There you go. I don't think this is perfectly accurate, so I do recommend pressing this to preview the image in a browser. Now, this looks a little funny because it shows everything, but don't worry, it's still sliced up in the code itself. So now we can tell, we draw the card, we teleport, we snag it, there's a nice punchy effect, and then the GIF finally resets. It's really nice, I'm very happy with this panel, and I'm ready to export. Now, if I would just press save, it would save like a weird folder with all my extra slices on those sides that I didn't even make. What you're gonna wanna do for the first time is go here and go to edit output settings and make sure that on saving files, you turn off putting the images in a folder. And honestly, you can also go to the slices panel and just turn off the extra layer names or stuff by selecting none at the bottom of that drop down. So now when I press save, it'll just be the name I give it, such as Jane Venture underscore 004. And the panel's ready. It's nice, it's punchy. I think the movement might have been a little too much in this area, but overall I'm really happy with the result. And I just kind of jammed out. It was really simple. All this is teleport, pick up an item, but there's still punchiness. It's nice to follow the action. I'm going to go into a more interesting panel in a second, but I think you should pause the video and try to make this really simple panel. A character teleporting and picking up an item. Maybe even just teleporting, maybe even just holding up, jumping on the bed, moving around the room. Try to get your ideas of Tickback dialed in and ready to go. Understand layer distances, stuff like that. Go and jam with it, then come back to this video. Remember, there's a PSD download in the description for you to toy with. Okay, I have realized that a video that can fit both of these tutorial segments will be a little too long and intimidating for new people, so please click somewhere on screen to watch that extra tutorial. It's a bit shorter, but it's a little more advanced. We go into some bigger things to keep in mind for Canvas, more tricks to do while you're editing, uh, better use of the layers across the character sprite sheet that you're going to want to use and alternate between. So I think it's also a lot of useful tips. Jam out with the stuff we taught in this tutorial, then continue to the next one. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed. This is what we're going to make in the next one. I think it's pretty sweet.